Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by Sean Keenan.
Heidi thinks your list sucks.
And, of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear who didn't have to watch a movie this week.
Oh, that's right, everybody. We've got something a little bit different for you. We've kind of been... Honestly, let's be frank here. We've watched a lot of stuff lately, and some of it's good, and a lot of it maybe not so good. And we decided, hey, we need to take a little bit of a break and do something a little bit different for this show, and I think you're in for quite a treat. Sean, you were kind of the spearhead for this. Kind of let everybody know what our idea is for this special episode.
Right. So it's a list show basically, and the list is the top 10 superheroes without movies, like superheroes that need movies. And so, we vary greatly in our likes and dislikes, although there's probably a thing here or there where we're going to have it on the same list, but it'll be a nice surprise. And also it changes things up a bit, so we don't have to, continue talking about a movie that we probably weren't going to like in the first place. And so why not try something different? And here we are.
And you might be surprised that some of us stayed a little bit on that track and at the same time also veered off a little bit. But that's part of the fun, I think, in all of these lists.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that is. So let me do this because we normally would, at this point, play some sort of a trailer or something like that. But how in the world can you have a trailer for something like this? Oh, no, we got something. So let me go ahead and throw here's the trailer for this episode.
In a world filled with comic book movies, three men who are way too old to like this crap will prove that Hollywood has no idea what they're doing. This is HMP's Heroes That Need Movies.
Ooh, not bad, right?
Now, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that you did a little bit of homework before the episode.
Yeah.
Good job.
How did you keep that a secret all this time?
What do you? Because okay. Here's the thing. I pat myself on the back for every little tiny thing that I do. Is that what you're saying?
I'm just
I mean, you're not wrong, but I'm just wanting to know if that's what you're saying. But at the same time, too, I'm not the only one here.
It's time for Bruce's comic book connection.
All right, we talked about this earlier. Somehow he has a comic book connection. Let's see what happens.
Well, the pathway from comics to movies has become well worn in recent years. So much so that comics are written solely in the hopes of becoming a movie. Or perhaps because a script for a movie got no traction, the creators thought comics were a nice fallback plan. Now, some of these written with movies in mind comics may be movies you didn't know were based on comics. Take, for example, the Dwayne Johnson Rock movie, the big hit Hercules. Well, that was based on Hercules, the Thracian Wars, written by Steve, no relation, Moore, and published by Radical Comics. Now, in regards to its comics, Radical founder Barry Levin stated that each title is built with the assumption the comic book will eventually land on the big screen. That's a quote. These tools are used to attract film directors and other talent for attachment to a project during the development process. That's the end of what he had to say. And I could tell you guys how I feel about Mr. Levin's practice at Radical Comics, but I think you probably already know. Now, in March 2012, the company began production on the movie Oblivion with Universal Pictures based on an unpublished comic book. You see, this is just getting ridiculous when unpublished comics are getting movies while so many solid gold classics are getting ignored. In 2014, Radical was strongly criticized by writer Alan Moore. Big shocker there, right? But he called for a boycott of the Hercules film due to the treatment of his friend and fellow writer, though no relation, Steve Moore. The mistreatment he received at the hands of the company. Steve Moore had essentially received no payment related to the comic book being picked up for a film treatment and consequently asked that his name not be attached to the film. However, after Steve Moore's death in early 2014, his name was allegedly used to promote the film to capitalize upon the interest generated by his passing. But there is karmic justice in the world of comic book movies, and the vast majority of attempts by Radical to turn their comics into movies have had Sam Worthington attached, and therefore they've all failed to be made. Now, the classic film listed on the American Film Institute's list of thousands of movies that exist, called Bullet to the Head, is also based on a comic book. Apparently, Bullet to the Head is based on a French graphic novel titled Le Bullet à la Head, and it starred friend of the show Sylvester Stallone. Now, an executive attached to the film has said, "This movie is exactly the type of fast-paced, universally themed project that suits our business model. Personally, I would have to say that business model must be spending $60 million to have the insides of a sick baby's diaper to show for it." Two Guns is a 2013 American action comedy film directed by Baltazar Kormacor, starring Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg, and it's based on the comic book series of the same name that was created by Stephen Grant and Mateus Sanluco, published in 2007 by Boom Studios. Stephen Grant is probably best known for writing a run of not bad Punisher stories, but the urban legend surrounding Two Guns is that it was a script nobody in Hollywood wanted, so it was turned into a comic. Then the comic's rights were bought by Hollywood. And this is a case of Hollywood showing just how afraid they are to lead. Like, they can't be the first ones to say they like something. Something has to be liked by somebody else before Hollywood will take any ownership of it. Also, I'm not real happy about this because it potentially wrongly encouraged a lot of desperate wannabe screenwriters into thinking that flooding the indie comic market with terrible comics is a shortcut to Hollywood success. Kind of the way actors used to think doing stand-up comedy would help them get discovered and be in movies, even if they aren't very funny. But when it comes to writing comics solely for the purpose of having them be adapted into movies, nobody compares to Mark Miller Millar. Miller in quote marks there. He's the really weird anti-Alan Moore. Alan Moore always set out to write comics that are unfilmable. Meanwhile, Mark Miller Millar is trying to cast his stories when he writes the comics. Listen, I'll admit he hit it out of the park when he wrote Ultimate Nick Fury as Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah. That one worked out pretty darn good. But Eminem as the lead role in Wanted, and Halle Berry playing the female character that was already a ripoff of Catwoman that didn't work out so well for Halle Berry in the first place, yeah, not going to happen. Angelina Jolie was a better choice. And I've just got to say this, like her or not, is what I was trying to say. In her prime, Angelina Jolie was a better choice than everyone. Just ask Jennifer Aniston if you don't believe me. Was that too mean, guys?
That's accurate.
I don't want to be mean. I take that back.
I think it's pretty mean you
Jennifer
keep
Aniston.
Calling Halle Berry Halle Berry.
He gets Angelina Jolie
Hollywood
right,
Berry?
but Halle Berry he screws up. I don't know.
What did I say? I said Halle Berry.
That's still wrong.
Yeah, that's not how you say that.
Holly Berry.
Move on.
Nope.
Holly Berry Pete.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Oh, well, it's better.
Well, anyway, Mark Millar sold the film rights to Chrononauts and Huck before the stories had even been written. And he's become the first comic book writer in history to sign an exclusive deal with Netflix. How does that even work now? Is Netflix a comic company now? Will I be able to stream Mark Miller Millar comics? Look, Mark Miller Millar is a fine enough comic writer, but I just don't understand why Hollywood loves the guy. I'm of the opinion that Mark Miller Millar owes his success to Matthew Vaughn more than he does to any comic book. So, tell me, Netflix, why are you locking up unpublished work from Mark Miller Millar when there are 30 years of Gru the Wanderer stories just waiting to be streamed to America's youth? That's all I've got.
I think I think Miller Millar should be how he's referred to from this point out, because it is totally Miller, but everybody is just like, well, he's not American, so we must have a different pronunciation of that. And it's like, no, it's just Miller. Miller Millar. I kind of like the ring on it.
I debated Mark Miller Millar or Mark Millar Miller, but I did like switching it up from Dwayne The Rock Johnson to the Dwayne Johnson Rock.
You know, whatever works. I like to think of it as like a 3-card Monty of names. You just kind of figure out how you want to do it.
Yeah, Steve No Relation Moore was the only one that really worked.
Well, Sean, you spearheaded this idea. I want to see where you start with number 10.
Okay, no problem. So number 10 for me, this is going to come as no surprise to probably Bruce. I would really, really like to see a Guy Gardner movie. Guy Gardner is the type of hero that has, the thing that makes him so great is how terrible he can sometimes be. It would be my favorite kind of story, which is a redemption story. And you also get that added payday of the flashback with him where, he looks like a normal guy now, but then when you flash back a couple years, he's got that stupid his Green Lantern stuff on and the bowl cut, and it's hilarious. And so you have a little bit of everything with this guy where, he's kind of the unwitting hero. He doesn't really want to be one, but he really wants to be one. There's a dichotomy with him that I just love.
So do you want to give it like a serious superhero treatment, or do you want it to be a little bit of a comedy?
I think that you can have it. The way you can ride the line with this is sort of like the first Die Hard movie, because the first Die Hard movie has humor in it. It's funny, but it's not a comedy. And so that's the way that I would run the Guy Gardner movie, is that through that same spectrum. That's the line.
Okay, so you're not laughing at Guy Gardner. Like, if anything, you're laughing at some of the quips he makes and the situations he's in, but he is not the butt of the joke. We're taking him, his full manliness serious.
Well, no, I mean, there's going to be a bit of like, what are you doing, dude? Like, there's got to be a bit of that with him. It's the sort of like, man, I can't think of the perfect example for this, but there's something to be said for somebody who takes themselves a little too seriously, like a step too serious, and that is who this character is to me. Is that, yes, he's a serious character, but he takes himself even more serious than he actually is, and that's why I like him.
So far, the only guy to pull off a haircut anywhere near Guy Gardner's probably been Javier Bardem. How do you say that name, Javier Bardem?
There you go. Good job.
You actually just nailed it with that second pronunciation.
Second one got it,
okay. Yeah. So he came close to the Oscar-winning haircut that Guy Gardner would have, but I don't know who plays Guy Gardner, man.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. There's a couple in my list, though, that you were going to find here where it's like, man, I don't know who's going to.
If you went with a young Guy Gardner, or you want to wait a couple years, Rupert Grint, that's your big redhead. He's got the Harry Potter fame. That would bring a couple of people in.
I think you can't cast just based on the hair, though. You got to have the Guy Gardner personality. You put a wig on
for
that
sure.
fella. I think if you could get 1986's Nick Nolte, you'd have a good Guy Gardner.
That's not bad. He'd have to get all yoked up.
Yeah.
If he can stop boozing for 3 seconds and go do a couple of bench presses, we'll be fine.
And pay your taxes, for God's sake.
Get it together, man. All right, Bruce, what do you got number 10?
I think I'm going to, I got a long list here. I got a little extra because I count on us having some overlap, but I think I'm going to go simple. For number 10, I'd kind of like to see Miss Marvel, the Carmela Khan character, Miss Marvel. I think that Hollywood has shown, I won't say Hollywood, I'd say moviegoers have shown that there are big rewards for Hollywood when underserved markets are given something good. You look at how I think Wonder Woman outperformed box office expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
As like finally giving a female superhero a well-made movie to be the lead in. And to be honest, as good as Wonder Woman is, it's not a perfect movie. But boy, it had like legs, pun fully intended. But I mean, it had legs. It rose week after week. I mean, it was like just kept going up and up for about a month.
Well, it had the same thing that Black Panther had, which
that's
is
what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
well, and most recently,
more than a movie.
Most recently, Crazy Rich Asians was huge because it was an underserved market.
Yeah, there's a market that some ill-informed studio executives had made the rule of thumb: nobody sees movies with women or black people in the lead. You know, that's something that came out from those Sony emails. Well, Hollywood conventional wisdom was proven wrong by moviegoers, and both of those movies have done great. And I think a cute 17-year-old suburban Islamic American superhero like Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, with really cool shape-shifting powers and stuff. I mean, she's essentially got Reed Richards powers, but she's a teenage girl kind of growing up in this cultural divide between her more traditional Islamic parents and a lot of her friends that are just living secular lives. And she balances that. She is cool without ever being untrue to her faith, written really well by G. Willow Wilson. I think that could be a really cool movie. I think it could be a movie that would be good for a lot of kids. I think it would find some amazing support. I think it would get some protests that probably just sold more tickets than they discouraged. You know what I mean?
Probably.
I just think it would be a really cool movie. It's a great character. I think it's ripe. It's a relatively new character, so you can't get a lot of traditionalists arguing with whatever direction they go. I think it's a movie that probably needs to be made right about now.
Let's just make it with a black man in the lead. That's the
Kevin Hart is the right height.
That is true. Very true.
All right, Adam.
Number 10 for me. I'm going a little bit different here. My first one is a little bit of almost an alternate universe movie that was never made that I kind of would still have liked to have seen. Back in the day when we had Spider-Man 3 come out, not do so hot and everything, mostly because Sam Raimi did not care for Venom, as we've talked about on this show. Go back and check out our Spider-Man 3 review. He had a plan for Spider-Man 4 that never actually came to fruition, and that would have starred John Malkovich as the Vulture. And as much as I love what we got with the Vulture and Michael Keaton in Homecoming, it really would have been interesting to see Malkovich as the Vulture in a Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie with all of our, pretty much same cast as we had previously. But it would be interesting to see that movie that never was.
Hey, Sean.
Yeah.
Did Adam just kind of break the rules?
Yeah, he did.
Listen,
Okay,
Adam's breaking.
sure.
There's the latter half is a little bit more of what you're looking for, but
You made a trailer, so we'll give you this.
I wanted to throw in some more stuff. Okay, but trust me, I've got more things coming down the pipeline. But come on, Malkovich is the Vulture. That would at least it would have been crazily over the top. All right, well, good show, Sean. Number 9.
My next one is an alternative universe movie. Sylvester Stallone is Superman. No, I'm kidding. My number 9 is probably on a couple. It might be on both you guys' list, and it's Moon Knight. It's the one that we keep hearing that they probably have something in the pipeline, but they haven't made it. There's something about this character that it has always fascinated me. I'm sure it has with you guys too. Yeah. There's something so weird about this guy. It's Batman, but he's white and he's crazy, and the look is so cool with the cape and the way that they do it with the cowl and everything, and the hood, so neat. He has no face. Come on, what's wrong with that?
Khonshu, like the imagery of the Egyptian kind of tie back with Khonshu, and the whole idea, it was on my list too, but I'm knocking it down. That's why I had a few extras, because I knew something like this would happen. Sure. But I like the idea of an unreliable narrator too.
Yes.
Now I'm potentially risking ruining a movie that's old and a movie that hasn't been made yet, but I can see Moon Knight as being like a superhero Shutter Island.
Oh, that's yeah. Except
especially
for good.
if you've read the recent Jeff
Shutter
Lemire
Island's
run,
good.
it's very much like that.
Yeah. Except that it's actually good.
I like Shutter Island.
And you can't see the twist coming like you can with Shutter Island.
Yeah. And there's like the double twist on Moon Knight where he's like crazy, but it's also like real at the same time. Like, just because I actually had a psychopathology professor in medical school that said, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean someone isn't out to get you. Like, both can happen.
Right.
So that's cool. It would be that way with Moon Knight.
Yeah, and also, I mean, he's one of those characters where maybe it's just because it's where you and I grew up, Bruce, but Moon Knight is one of those characters where when you were looking through the racks at, like either your comic book store or even earlier than that at, like a 7-Eleven or something, whenever one of those was there, I would always look to see what the cover was, because the covers were so cool to Moon Knight.
It was like a treasure too. I mean, you weren't going to get Moon Knight very often.
Right.
So it was like a special treat.
And it was like, man, look at that. That's so cool. That character's so cool. And then you'd read it and go, oh, man, I don't know what happened, and I'll never get the next one. But, man, this is really cool.
Exactly.
All right, your turn.
Oh, it's my turn, man. So let's see. For number 9 for me, I'd like to see an Apollo and Midnighter movie.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
And I don't know, Adam, how familiar you are with Apollo and Midnighter.
Can't say
but
that.
Essentially, it's a wild. They're Wildstorm characters, so I'm going to call them Jim Lee creations. So it was probably like Warren Ellis or somebody that actually created them. But just picture Superman and Batman, only they're in love, because they were. I mean, they're in DC because Wildstorm got purchased by DC, but Apollo is essentially Superman. Midnighter is essentially Batman, only more sadistic, a little bit more violent. It's like Batman with a touch of Rorschach, perhaps, touch of the Punisher to him.
Yeah.
But someone, maybe Warren Ellis, once again, I should have looked up who the writer was that created these characters, but they wanted to ask, what if Superman and Batman were in a committed relationship? And it was a big time too, because it was a big deal when they first entered the comic scene, because that was at a time when it was still people still didn't feel comfortable introducing gay characters in comics, right, other than like North Star was the only gay character forever. I
could be wrong about this, but I think the characters were introduced by Jim Lee, but it was Warren Ellis who gave them who they actually are. Having Apollo and Midnighter be romantically involved, that's Warren Ellis.
And Jim Lee always worked with writers. He never really did a whole comic soup to nuts on his own, so somebody would have been around. But anyway, I think those would be really cool, especially now when people the novelty of it isn't going to be enough to sell it at this point, like it was when they first came out. So I'd kind of like to see how it was done, how people respond to it, how you deal with a romance between Superman and Batman. Very different people.
Right.
I think it'd be a cool one.
That's a good one. I'd want to see that movie. That's a good one, Bruce.
Yeah, just like Miss Marvel, I'm trying to pick stuff that hasn't been in development hell forever. I'm trying to pick things that I think would actually be novel.
Sure.
Speaking of things that are novel, this one isn't as novel because I'm still. Trust me, I swear to you guys, the back half of the back half of this golf course is really really hot news. Okay, but bear with me for these couple. All right, back in 2003 in film school, I was talking with people all the time about comic book movies. Obviously, we'd had stuff start to kick off a little bit good there. We had your Spider-Man movies and whatnot, so we could only always dream of the things that could be coming down the pipe. And one for the longest time was Iron Man, and connected to Iron Man for the longest time was actually Tom Cruise to play Tony Stark. And I always thought that would have been a really cool idea. Obviously, I think we've got the best Tony Stark that we possibly could have in Robert Downey Jr. But I always would like to see what would have happened if Tom Cruise had been Tony Stark. And I'd actually like to see that, speaking of Tonys, directed by one Tony Scott. Because if there's anybody who could do a wild and crazy Iron Man movie with, him flying through the air and shooting up Lord knows what, Tony Scott would have been the dude to do it. I swear to you, I got more stuff that's like what you've got later on. I promise you.
How far do we get in the list?
I feel the anger. I feel the anger coming from you.
Four.
I get it. One,
hey,
I got...
Adam, just let me guess. Is your number 8, does it involve Sean Young and Catwoman?
No.
Okay, good.
I got more. I got things coming. Don't worry. I feel so much anger coming from
Leonardo
you
DiCaprio as Spider-Man.
No. All right, moving on, because apparently my ideas are terrible. But I promise you, we're getting down. All right, Sean, number 8?
Yeah, we're at 8. So this is going to seem like I'm being too cool for school with this character. It really is one of my one of my secret loves of the X-Men. I absolutely love the character of Forge. Do you guys know Forge?
Yeah,
I do know Forge. I'm not a fan. I mean, I wouldn't say that I dislike Forge, but Forge is a concept that's sometimes difficult to explain to people.
Yes, I agree with you. But one of the things that I really like about him is he's a builder. He makes stuff. He's kind of like we are. Like, we make stuff. Well, Bruce and I make stuff, and Adam comes along for the ride.
Hey.
and so I like that's what I like about Forge, is that Forge is like a techno builder, and he built his own arm and his own leg, and he builds all these cool ships for all the X-Men and stuff. I don't even know if he does that anymore. Like, now they make him more of like a leadership role, which I think is a mistake. But having somebody be the tinkerer for these bigger, badder, better characters, and you're just following him, and it's this very small little movie with him in a shop and he's making stuff.
Is he jumping through time?
If that's what he can, if he builds something where he can jump through time, sure. Fix the X-Men. Yeah, fix their continuity.
That's where I'm thinking. He goes through and kind of
maybe that's what he does.
It's a man on a mission film. It's like the Dirty Dozen, but he goes in to save the X-Men, like franchise.
Yeah. And he's part Indian or something like that. I can't remember, but like because he plays things very quiet. Like he's a very quiet character, and it's one of the things that I really like about him. And all of the cool like pouches and guns and stuff from the 90s, that's all from him originally. I don't know if that's still the case, but it was in the 90s that he built all of their stuff. And I would love to see that character. I think that's a really cool movie.
Yeah, I can see it.
I like that idea. You sold it on me. Now, like, I'm not a big fan of the character per se, but then you sold me on it. Talking about it would be sort of like a small story, like big stories told from a small guy's perspective, and find a way to make it about him, a person who's normally more in the background. I like that.
And sometimes he's got to like fill out his tax papers and stuff like that, and it's a lot of work because owning your own small business is it's no small feat.
Well, imagine that it's the Apocalypse, Age of Apocalypse, the last X-Men movie, and you're seeing that garbage, but through his perspective, it probably is a lot cooler.
I think so. Especially if if they could literally make it take place during Age of Apocalypse, and it's like this story that didn't seem like you were thrilled with it. Now we're going to see the whole story from a different, far more interesting POV, where the main events are just shown like through archive footage on TV news screens and stuff in the background while the real interesting stuff's going on. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, isn't that neat? I like that idea.
Yeah, not bad.
Your turn, Bruce.
So we're at number 8 here?
Yes, sir. Number 8.
This is a movie that I really desperately want to be made because it probably should have been made 30 years ago, and it wasn't. And I don't understand why this movie's never been made, and it needs to get made now more than ever because it's too much time passes. You can't make Sergeant Rock an Easy Company into a movie. Like it's such a World War II movie, and I hate to say it, but we're almost at the point where folks picture World War II might as well be talking about the Roman legions during the Punic Wars or something, Yeah. And I wish that movie could have been made like when people in my grandpa's generation were still alive enough so that the kid could go watch this really cool Sergeant Rock, very comic booky World War II movie about the guy who actually got killed by the last shot fired in the last hour of the last day of World War II. I mean, it's just really the mythology around Sergeant Rock and Easy Company is just so awesome. And I think you can make a great trilogy of movies about Sergeant Rock and have him die at the end of the third one. You go home, you ask your grandpa about World War II. Unfortunately, most of the grandpas who can talk about World War II aren't here to talk about it anymore. They waited too long, but the sooner they make it, the better. I can remember, I believe it was 5th grade, either a sick day or a snow day, laying down on the very uncomfortable industrial grade carpet in the office where my mom worked, reading Sergeant Rock comics while she was doing whatever kind of work she did at her desk. It was awesome. And just very fond memories of reading those Sergeant Rock comics. And as much fun as we had with Captain America and the First Avenger with the Howling Commandos and Dum Dum Dugan and everybody behind him, Sergeant Rock could be like, essentially the Easy Company was the equivalent of the Howling Commandos. There's just no, Sergeant Rock instead of Sergeant Fury, and there's no Captain America there because Sergeant Rock's the cool guy in Easy Company.
Right. Man, that sounds good. I would love to see that movie.
Cool. All right. Again, I swear to you, back heat. Don't worry. But this character has already been out. But Mike Holter is obviously our Luke Cage. We all know that. The guy is amazing at what he does. No matter what you think of Luke Cage, season 1 or season 2, you like that character. The dude just brings it, and he brings it darn well. And but I'd like to pair him up with with another guy who would never ever do a comic book movie except for a Luke Cage one, and then he's said as much. Quentin Tarantino's Luke Cage, and full just regular feature, no Netflix, no nothing, But I want to see. He hasn't talked about what it would be, but I would like to see what Quentin Tarantino would take on Luke Cage, because he said if he ever did any comic book movie, that's what he would want to do.
I think would work because he would really lean into the blaxploitation roots of Luke Cage.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not sure what the story would be, but because I wouldn't assume to think that I could put that together. But
I have one thing I might not like about Quentin Tarantino's Luke Cage is it would be filled with white people saying the N-word.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, but then Luke Cage would go and kill those people. That's kind of how,
And there would be some interesting theory where Luke Cage was the great grandson of Django.
Hey, listen.
And there'd be one moment in the movie that was just so physically uncomfortable that you would want to leave the theater as you're watching it.
I've never been that way in any movie.
Ladies
ever.
and gentlemen, Hateful Eight.
Speaking of 8, isn't what? No, wait, we're at 7.
We're on 7.
There you go.
Yeah, it's back to Sean.
Yes, my turn. So to continue with my X-Men theme, I would really like to see Alpha Flight. I would like to see an Alpha Flight movie, or maybe even a TV show.
Yeah.
They have 2 massive breakout stars. If we learned anything from Groot and Rocket, it's that people like big beings and little beings.
Yep.
And so you have Sasquatch and you have Puck, and man, oh man, you've got two characters right there that people are just going to fall for. Also, you got North Star, which would be a big deal. Still, even now, that would be a big deal.
Yep.
It's a like Alpha Flight. It's never been as big as I thought it should have been.
And I don't know the rights details, but there's a part of me that would like for Alpha Flight to be bundled in with whatever they're doing with Deadpool and X-Force.
That's not a bad idea. Like something where you have this very quiet, group of people, and everything's on fire over here, but they just take care of business. That's what and it's always snowing. It's always snowing at Alpha Flight.
Yes. I love that idea. And I know that Chris, my friend Chris Elvins, would definitely love that idea.
But
Good.
Of course he would. All right, Bruce, what do you got for number 7?
Well, for number 7, I think I'd like to suggest Dr. Fate. And really larger than Dr. Fate, I thought about just saying the Justice Society of America, but I want it specifically to be built around Dr. Fate. Dr. Fate from like the 1930s, early 1940s, like just at the cusp of World War II, Dr. Fate. And he's kind of the guy, Dr. Nelson goes, he finds the helmet that gives, like, the helmet of Naboo, believe it or not. He had the helmet of Naboo before Naboo was a thing from George Lucas. But I would like for Dr. Fate to get his helmet. He's facing, fighting against the Lords of Chaos as one of the Lords of Order, or the Lord of Order, an agent of the Lord of Order. And as World War II starts to unfold, he has to get some people like Dr. Midnight and Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern. Wouldn't that be kind of cool to see? A very different take than what we're used to on Green Lantern. I know we already mentioned Guy Gardner earlier. But build it around the archaeologist Dr. Fate, who also has another friend who's an archaeologist named Carter Hall. They get this all coming together so that there's a nice big Justice Society movie that's set in World War II probably, and it would allow Warner Brothers to distance themselves from the Justice League for a little while and to try again at a really cool team movie and to do one that's retro, because that works so well for Wonder Woman, to have that be set in the past. So you do that with Justice Society, and maybe it works a little bit better. You get Black Canary, Dr. Midnight, maybe the Sandman that used a gas mask, not Morpheus Sandman, which probably is going to be on somebody's list here. I just think that would be a cool thing to do. Just take a break from all the troubles that they're having with the Justice League. Ride the Wonder Woman sequel out, ride the Aquaman sequel out, then go back, give us Dr. Fate and the Justice Society.
I like that idea a lot, and you can even tie it into Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and there's no real competition if they want to go with super nostalgic Golden Age, because Marvel didn't really have a Golden Age presence beyond Captain America and Namor,
Right.
which they're not doing much with Namor.
And you can even crescendo this thing with the book The Golden Age as the tie-in for all of these characters.
That would be great, man. And then if you ever really wanted to get freaky with it, you find out that there is an Earth 1 and an Earth 2, and these Justice Society and Justice League have to cross over just like they did in the comics.
Love it.
Yep. That's it. That's my number 7.
We're figuring it all out, Bruce.
All right, so let's see. Don't tell us yet, Adam. Let me guess.
Okay.
Let me guess.
All right, let's do it.
So you really would like to have seen the third Amazing Spider-Man movie where Rhino was the main villain, starring Paul Giamatti.
Would have been interesting, but that is not on the list at all.
Okay.
You actually happened to mention the name of the one that is next on my list, Bruce, and that's Namor the Submariner.
I love it. Now, this I can get behind, Adam. I can absolutely get behind it.
So he is. This actor has actually expressed interest in being Namor, which, and when you look at the guy, boy, howdy, I see it. This would be starring Brian T. He played Shredder in the Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows movie, and a whole bunch of TV shows about Chicago where he plays a character named Ethan Choi. I want it written by Marcus and McFeely because I think those guys really kind of know the Marvel Universe probably better than most people at this point. And directed by one Guillermo del Toro.
Really? You want Del Toro on Namor?
I just, after, with what I see him doing in, like, Shape of Water, obviously, water, that's enough of a big thing, and, like, the underwater sequences and that were really cool. And I think he would do a lot of great, really amazing real-life creature design and everything. To where it would be people in suits and not just CG, junk around the screen.
Who's directing Aquaman?
I worked with him on Death Sentence. He was on one of the Fast and the Furious movies.
Because what I'm thinking is I would like Justin Lin to do Namor, but then I worried maybe he's already doing Aquaman.
James Wan is doing Aquaman.
James Wan, that's his name.
So would Justin Lin doing Namor against James Wan doing Aquaman be too much like gimmick directing? Because I think Justin Lin would be really good at it.
We may find that name coming up later.
Okay, I don't want to rain on your parade.
I think Justin Theroux should play Namor. I think he would be awesome in that role.
Remind me who Justin Theroux is.
He's the lead actor in the TV show The Leftovers.
Okay.
Most well known for Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah. But he can pull off that Namor-ish.
I bet, yeah, he could. He definitely, he
can be angry and pompous and all of those things, and you still have to like the guy at the end of the movie. Keep in mind, which is a really hard needle to thread.
You got to look good in a Speedo too. Does Justin Theroux look good in a Speedo?
Which he does.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, I want more members of the Illuminati showing up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that to happen. We're close, and that's another name to tick off there.
Yeah.
All right, Sean, number 6.
I'd like to congratulate you.
Oh, good. You got there's more to come, baby. Don't worry.
You actually did your homework correctly. So next up for me is a character that they already make a lot of movies of, but this is a different version of that character, and it's Superman Red Son. I would love to see a movie, Superman Red Son, and not a cartoon, an actual live action movie.
Sean, we can't get regular Superman right. What makes you think we can get Red Son Superman right?
Okay, well, you know who I would like to see play Superman, the communist Superman, Adam?
Okay.
Army Hammer, based pretty much on how much I liked him in Man from U.N.C.L.E. as the Russian
man.
spy.
He'd be great.
He could buff up a little bit, just a little bit. Now, I don't think he had to do that much, but he's a big dude. I like it.
And then the novelty of him stepping into the Henry Cavill role, and they were both in Man from U.N.C.L.E. together. It all kind of works out for me on so many levels. But I think he would be I just liked him as the intimidating Russian who maybe had kind of a good heart as the story
I
unfolded.
like that a lot. Good choice.
He's 6'5".
Yeah, big dude.
I mean, he's big enough.
So it's
The,
like an inch and a half taller than me. That's perfect.
He's because they keep wanting to make Superman sad for some reason. So if you're going to make him sad, at least make him Russian and sad. You know what I mean? There's also that awesome twist of an ending to it, in the book. So you already got the awesome twist ending.
Let's not spoil that twist ending for folks.
I'm not going to.
Good.
I'm not going to. But it's great, and so that's how you end your movie, and it could turn out that the best version of Superman in the last 30 years is Superman Red Son.
And you guys remember who wrote Superman Red Son?
Mark Millar.
Or Millar Miller.
Yeah.
Best game we got going.
All right, is it my turn?
It's your
It is
turn,
your
sir.
All right. So what are we at? 6?
6.
Okay, this is the last one that I'm going to be playing round robin because my top 5 are set in stone. Even if we have overlap, which I doubt we will, we'll be overlapping anyway.
They're all blob from this point out, Sean.
But number 6, I'd like to see She-Hulk.
Yeah.
I can't believe we've never seen anything with She-Hulk. Like She-Hulk's, I don't even know that she's shown up very much in animated stuff. Like it's just this weird character that's immensely popular, ever present in the comics, been a part of so many teams, so many interesting storylines. She even did the Deadpool thing, breaking the fourth wall before Deadpool was really doing it.
True.
And there's a huge fan base around her, and nothing has ever been done with She-Hulk, which is just so bizarre to me. I know there was a wee bit of development where I think Brigitte Nielsen was going to be She-Hulk or something ridiculous like that.
Do you imagine Brigitte Nielsen being a lawyer?
Yeah. But see, that's what I like, is I would like to have seriously, you're getting 2 movies or 2 shows in one. Like I want there to be a legitimate legal drama going on with Jennifer Walters, and she turns into She-Hulk and beats people up. And if you're familiar with the She-Hulk character, she really likes man love, like she likes dudes a lot. So you can even have the romantic angle on that too, because she's like a sex positive feminist is the term, I guess.
What a weird way of putting that, Bruce.
She's a lady stud. Like she gets around and is proud of it, and I think that's a big part of why a lot of the she's seen as a strong female role model in the sex positive community.
I hear you into
I
the
just
man
think all
love,
that's cool.
eh?
But I like the idea of a really serious legal drama, and then it's almost like Jekyll and Hyde. She-Hulk is out having fun and kicking butt, while Jennifer Walters is just all consumed with the court case stuff. Like they could do it better than Daredevil did it, I think, because Daredevil did it by Matt Murdock just never showing up for court, and Foggy had to do all the work.
Yeah.
I think they could do it better, and they could almost even give her a bit of amnesia if they wanted to, make it a serious Jekyll and Hyde and a super fun movie. And Wonder Woman has shown people are into ladies that can kick butt, and nobody kicks butt like She-Hulk.
Very true. Loves it.
All right, my number 6. We all love action movies. We all love kind of spy movies and everything like that. And you know what? I would say, I don't care who you are, most of us like looking at attractive people on screen. Therefore, my number 6 is from J. Scott Campbell, Danger Girl. And I've got it cast out and everything. We got Scarlett Johansson as Abby Chase, Margot Robbie as Sonya Savage, Olivia Wilde as Sydney Savage, Emma Stone as Silicon Valley, Valerie rather. And of course, if you've looked at the book, you know that Sean Connery is Deuce. And this would be directed by Justin Lin of Fast and Furious 3, 4, 5, and 6 fame, as well as Star Trek Beyond.
See, I'm picturing McGee for this.
McGee has fallen off the He's fallen off the track, and we're going to have to say no to that. I want Justin Lin. Justin Lin is used to dealing with, large casts and everything and juggling those things around, doing solid action work. So I think he'd be fantastic at this.
I'm sure he'd do a good job. But McGee did those Charlie's Angels movies.
I have to admit, I have a total blind spot with this. I don't know anything about Danger Girl at all.
Well, there were only 7 real issues that J. Scott Campbell put out initially, which left on a cliffhanger, and then he was gone forever. And then I guess they're back to doing some sort of regular book, but it's one of those, you know what, you left me too long and I don't care anymore kind of things. But look, I'm looking for an excuse to get a lot of attractive people together and have like awesome action sequences, and darn it, Danger Girl's the way to do it. All
I
right,
can go with that.
Yeah, me too.
all right, let's go for number 5.
Number 5.
All right, Sean.
Mine is the Jack Knight version of Starman, number 5.
I love it. I love it. James Robinson is the guy behind that one, right?
Yes, he is. James Robinson's the creator of that version of Jack Knight. He's got a great rogues gallery. He's so unlike any other superhero, I guess, is the answer, because he legitimately does not want to be a superhero at all. He wants to be done. He's only doing it because he has to. His dad was a superhero. He's dead. His brother was a superhero. He's dead. He's only doing it because he has to do it.
I love it.
And Shade the Changing Man is it is the best version of him is during this arc here. It is so amazing. The character is so fully fleshed out. You have just hundreds. It's 5 giant books. So what is that? 100 issues, maybe?
At least, yeah.
To
Yeah.
pull from. I mean, you could make a great movie with this.
I think that's a real good one, man. One thing I would say is probably keep James Robinson away from the screenplay, because to the best of my knowledge, his only screenplay was LXG.
Oh boy.
A very good point.
Trying to see how many comics were in that run. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked.
I don't have them. I don't have them in front of me, but it wraps up nice. There's
81 issues. Perfect.
There you go. You can make a great movie out of 81 issues of a comic book.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's right there with Miracle Man when it comes to taking. It came several years later, so it's a little different take on it. But when it comes to deconstructing heroes, it's right there with Miracle Man.
Yeah, and I would love to see something.
Nice.
All right, now is it back to me?
Back to you.
Yes, sir.
So now I've got a hard top 5 that I just can't waver on, because each of them needs to be spoken about. But number 5 is The Invisibles by Grant Morrison. Don't know how familiar either of you guys are with The Invisibles.
I'm aware of them. I've never read.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest reason that there hasn't really been any movement to produce an Invisibles movie is because everybody who saw The Matrix and was familiar with The Invisibles said, this is kind of borrowing pretty heavily from The Invisibles here. So now, it's the whole tail wagging the dog thing. If you make an Invisibles movie now, you're going to be accused of ripping off The Matrix, even though The Matrix seemed to be very similar to The Invisibles, where the source material came before The Matrix, and the Wachowski siblings have denied being familiar with The Invisibles, but it seems like somebody somewhere knew a lot about The Invisibles. But it's the right amount of weirdness for Grant Morrison. Grant Morrison's going to pop up at least one more time on this list, where maybe it's just a touch too much weirdness. But Grant Morrison has this, I don't know if he's I think you're talking about wine. If I remember the movie Sideways, wine peaks. You don't want to drink it too soon, a certain vintage. You want to wait till it peaks, but if you wait too long, then it becomes vinegar. And
Never drink a wine before it's time. Brought to you by the Ernest
so
Juliet Gallows.
Grant Morrison has this trajectory of weirdness where he needed to get to his peak weirdness, and then he just got too weird and he's not good anymore. And I think Invisibles was right at that peak. He started with, strangely enough, Zenith was the low point of his weirdness. Isn't that kind of ironic? But I would love to see questioning the nature of reality in The Invisibles. King Mob would be just a cool character to see in probably an HBO prestige format TV show or something rather than a movie, because you got to go with The Invisibles for a long time. But you got to get woke if you're in the world of The Invisibles.
Agreed. I love that. I would love to see an Invisibles movie. It would lend itself to a movie more so than a comic book, in my opinion.
Yeah, probably. But when the tagline is "the world is not what it seems," you're in for a lot of Matrix style shenanigans on the nature of reality that everybody who saw it would be like people used to drive me nuts when NBC took a chance on Constantine a couple years back, and everybody that saw it said, I like it, but it's just ripping off Supernatural.
Right.
And you can imagine how that sat with me. And that's the same thing that would happen with the Invisibles, is it would be accused of ripping off Dark City, not even the Matrix. They would really get it under the skin.
Really stick it to you. What about you, Adam? Number 5.
All right, number 5. Let me read out a little something here for you. Sam Alexander's a 15-year-old boy living in carefree Arizona with his father, mother, and little sister. His father's always drunk and often talks about his supposed life as the Nova Centurion and shirks his duties as janitor at his son's school. Sam's mother is a Latina homemaker, and when Sam comes home from school, he finds his father missing. Sam accidentally injures himself and wakes up in a hospital. There, Rocket Raccoon and Gamora reveal Sam's father was really in the Nova Corps. After putting on his father's helmet, Sam travels to the moon, meeting Uatu, the Watcher, who reveals that an invasion fleet of alien ships belonging to the Chitauri are coming. And upon returning to Earth, Rocket and Gamora train him and tell him about and tell him to scout the fleet. This would be directed. This is Nova, of course, directed by Jon Favreau, and in some wild stunt casting. Bruce's son Silas when he turns 15.
I'm all for it. Suddenly, you had me there. At the end.
Well, now I'm all in.
Now, here's the question I had: is you really think Sam Alexander is the way to go instead of Richard Rider?
I'm not saying that a Richard Rider movie can't be made, but I mean, when I read that Nova series and stuff like that, it really just screamed out as like this should be a movie, and it would get little kids to go, and it could be a lot of fun. I mean, come on, man, when you've got a big giant tiger on screen,
it would have good synergy with Miss Marvel,
right?
the movie that I pitched there at number 9 or whatever. Because in the comics, Miss Marvel and Sam Alexander have this interesting friendship going on too. So I like that those movies would be made as a package deal, and then they would cross over in the sequel to one of them.
I think it would be interesting.
Plus, you can have Richard. You can have the Richard character be like a chaser.
Oh, for sure.
Where like, oh hey, there's the original Nova, and that guy was really great. And, he shows up at the end or whatever.
And at the same time, like, it's also kind of keeping a little bit with what Marvel's kind of been doing in their cinematic universe and everything.
And Marvel would never choose to build a movie franchise around a character whose name could be shortened to Dick Rider. I mean, that's just not going to happen. So Richard Rider's out of it, too.
Okay.
But I like the idea of Richard Rider. Like, I really was hoping we would get at least a name drop of him when the Nova Corps showed up in those Guardians movies.
Yeah.
Never know.
Yeah, I totally agree.
We're getting down to the final 4, Sean. I'm eager to hear what you have for number 4.
All right, number 4 for me is Spider-Woman.
Oh, yeah. Which one? Jessica Drew?
The original one, the one from Jessica Drew, is that right?
Yeah, with the nice hair.
Yeah, with the really nice hair. So here's the flip on it though. You set it in the 70s. You have her look the way she did in the 70s, but you keep the new storyline with her where her powers fizzled out, and then AIM gave her the power back. It's AIM, right?
Yeah.
That gave her the power back. So now you've got like a double secret agent deal going with her, and it's in the 70s, and you've made AIM cool, and you have this really bad A female superhero, and she's cool, and she's basically like a good looking version of Spider-Man. Like it's got everything.
I love it, man. I think that's an awesome idea.
Well, thank you very much. That's what I had.
Do you have any thoughts on it, Adam, on the Spider-Woman? I think that's one that, once again, it's like She-Hulk. I can't believe nobody has like got anywhere near Spider-Woman, not even in animation, No,
it's and they've kind of, and anytime they've done that over in animation, they tend to more hit in the Spider-Gwen category, if you will.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, it'd be nice to see something along those lines eventually,
Well, I'm tempted to stick with the spider theme because originally when I made my first draft of this list, for number 4, I had Spider-Ham. Peter Porker, Spectacular Spider-Ham. I wanted like live action with mocap. I wanted a legit Spider-Ham movie to be made, just like I want the Howard the Duck remake to be made. But I think there's a chance Spider-Ham may be showing up in the Miles Morales Into the Spider-Verse movie coming out at Christmas. So I think I don't want to put something on my list that might actually come to fruition within a couple of months.
But I do want to say George Miller would be the guy who directs that. Just saying.
Oh, yeah. I'm all for that, man. But anyway, instead of Spider-Ham, I'll stay in the same vein and say Captain Carrot. Go to DC. DC's Spider-Ham would probably be Captain Carrot. You know, Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew. It was all the same kind of shtick as Larval Earth with Spider-Ham and his company. But Captain Carrot was essentially a rabbit version of Superman. And I think you got to do some really cool, like live action CGI, blending this stuff together, kind of like that Peter Rabbit movie, only with the super rabbit called Captain Carrot. And the weird idea is like Captain Carrot kind of has this awareness that he is a comic book character in the animal planet where he lives. And then when he comes to like regular Earth, he has all that power with him. And it's a little bit of a Superboy Prime kind of situation coming to terms with that.
My buddy let me borrow all of his Captain Carrots. He had like 20, and they were all Captain Carrot.
Yeah.
I couldn't get through a full one.
Now here's a weird thing. I have Captain Carrot number 2. Like that's the pride of my Captain Carrot collection is number 2. I can't get number 1, so I'm proud of number 2. I weirdly have like several number 2s.
It's easier to get number 2s.
Yes, it is. So what have you got, Adam, for number 4? The Quattro.
Number 4, I'm not sure how many people are actually even aware of this. It was a comic in the kind of 2000s, a little bit early there, by the late Michael Turner. I've always thought this movie would be good. Aspen. Don't know if you know too much about this. I think it would...
I'm familiar with Aspen Comics.
Yeah, well, it's based...
Like the whole company, I guess, was based around Michael Turner, but I didn't know the individual. Like I was familiar with the company, not the comic, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot written here because the backstory is a little convoluted, and it would make a big giant.
By the way,
movie.
Sean, in case you're not familiar, it's kind of like Vampirella vein. There's a lot of scantily clad.
Oh, I
buxom
see.
women.
I got you.
So yeah, there's a bit of that, and dudes as well. A lot of some dudes as well. That's why I have it starring Megan Fox as well. Kevin Costner would play her father in this. She basically was like kind of found later on and didn't remember the first couple years of her life. Turns out she's kind of like this hybrid underwater person type deal and becomes a marine biologist and yada, yada, yada. Joe Manganiello's in there because I like him. He plays one of the underground or underwater people, as well as Chris Pine would play. There's a guy who shoots a missile into. There's so much. I don't even want to bore you, but here's the thing: this movie should be the movie that James Cameron does. This is right up his alley. It's underwater. It's crazy special effects and stuff. I do not know why this is not someone needs to send him this book, because if there's anyone that would make this underwater crazy thing happen, it would be James Cameron. Stop wasting your time on those Avatar movies, James. Make an Aspen movie.
I can't. I have nothing to follow you with, Adam, because I have never even heard of this character.
Well, looks like Adam's
it's ultra. I mean, Michael Turner is like big deal, kind of cutting edge image type artist, but he just made his own comic book company called Aspen Comics, like totally indie. And Aspen, of course, is the main comic. It's
so you would know his work obviously from Witchblade. That's like his biggest. That was like his biggest.
And I
thing.
think Witchblade was on
how I
Image or
know
something.
him.
Yeah,
but that was like Image or something. By the time he did Aspen, he just went straight to Aspen Comics and said, "Hey, this thing that Image is doing, I can do with that Image," kind of thing.
Yeah, just create her own stuff. And unfortunately, he died of like bone cancer at the ripe old age. It was like 37 or something like that.
Yeah, it's so
young
sad.
Dude. But,
yeah, way too young for that.
But from everyone you ever hear, just like the nicest dude. And of course, he did a lot of pinup work and stuff for DC in the later years and whatnot. So that's my number whatever.
Number 4. That was number 4.
Number 4. You're number 3, Sean.
All right, let's church it up a bit. Number 3.
Bah, bah, bah.
Captain Adam. is my number 3.
Hmm.
He is one of my childhood favorites. I realize that there kind of already is a Captain Adam since they made the Watchmen movie. But when I was growing up, he was one of my favorite characters. And he looks really cool because he's silvery, so he'd look great on screen.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's got that all of that army background to him, and his, you know, his rogues gallery is all army based as well. Like Major Force is his bad guy, you know, his villain. And there's this really cool plot, and I can't remember what year it is, or I don't have an issue number, but there was this really cool, like, 2-story arc where there was a guy who could just send you anywhere, like who Captain Adam was fighting, and he would keep putting Captain Adam in the far reaches of space. And Captain Adam, you know, he doesn't, you know, he's invulnerable to space. However, he can only breathe for so long. And so the whole deal was, I got to be able to get back to a place where I can breathe, and then I've got to get back to Earth. And it was this really cool little story, and it was 2 issues long, and it was great. And something like that in a movie, I would love to see that. What I'm finding out is, going through my list here, is I want to see a lot of little superhero movies. You know what I mean? Like,
I'd like to see anything with the Charlton characters, you know?
Right. Because, I know that there is that weirdness with Captain Adam also, right? Because even though DC owns him, doesn't the creator also have a part of him, or no?
I don't think so, but I could be wrong. I could be way off on that. But
Maybe
anything's possible.
It's just a fun. He's got a great visual. He's got a great visual look to him. I think that he is, you know, like you can basically just put whatever you want him to be when it comes to, you know, his mentality. You can make him whatever you want because he's basically a blank slate.
And Ditko is one of the creators on Captain Adam, apparently. Cool.
Oh, dang. I didn't know that.
I'm
Good
all
job.
about any character that's got gloves and boots, but no pants.
He's got a little bit of a Captain Planet vibe to him, honestly.
He does. He's Captain Planet way before Captain Planet.
Yeah, he didn't have the sweet mullet, but other than that, he kind of had that vibe to him.
We all can't bat 1,000.
Well, for me, for number
Hey,
3,
okay.
I guess number 4 was Captain Carrot. That's what I said. So we had Captain Carrot, Captain Adam, and Aspen at number 4. So at number 3, I'm going to stick with the carrot theme and say I'd like to see the Flaming Carrot get a movie because I don't think it's fair that the Mystery Men got a movie and Flaming Carrot got left out. And I'd kind of like it to be self-aware. I would like a big significant part of the movie to be Flaming Carrot complaining about the fact that he was left out of Mystery Men. And then, like, there's scenes where maybe Mystery Men are trying to shoehorn themselves into Flaming Carrot's movie, and he keeps, like, shoving them out of the story. I like that idea.
So what is, you know, I've read a couple of Flaming Carrot comic books in the 90s. I cannot remember anything about him. Like, what is the deal with him?
He wears a mask that looks like a carrot, and the top of the mask has a little flame that comes out of it. No
Right, but I
superpowers
mean,
or
what's
anything. That's it. Like that's it. And then there's some speculation
So
about. I think he's a wacko for the most part. That's the takeaway I always got from him.
right. That's the part that I thought I remembered too, was that the guy is completely nuts.
But he is who puts together the Mystery Men, and it's one of those where it's like his insanity is his power, kind of like the Tick. And you imagine, like, if he started to be more sane, he would be less powerful or something weird like that. But Flaming Carrot, similar to the Tick, except a little more absurd, I think. But just the mask, the way he would look on film, because if you remember what the Flaming Carrot looks like, his carrot mask is a full 5.5 feet long from top to bottom.
It's huge. It's like
It's not just like a little carrot on his head. I mean, it's like a person-sized carrot on his head.
But
Yeah, it's like to his belt buckle and
elephant
then
mask.
3 feet over his head.
Yeah, it goes below his belt buckle to, well, it can look a little embarrassing in certain poses. I'll just leave it at that.
Very nice. My number 3, people have been wanting this for some time, and I think I've got the team to give it to us. My choice for number 3 is Batman Beyond. My cast, I have Zac Efron as Terry McGinnis and Michael Keaton as old Batman. Bruce
love
Wayne.
that idea a lot.
That is a great idea.
Written by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm, directed by Denis Villeneuve, who did Blade Runner 2049, Arrival, Sicario, and Prisoners.
Now,
Yeah, he's good.
who did you say having Terry McGinnis again? Who was the actor you had for Terry McGinnis?
Zac Efron.
Oh, I like that. I tried to get him to be all kinds of stuff last week. Yeah, I like that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I remember.
Although I don't think you can take the guy away from what he's working on, but there's it's no mistake that Terry McGinnis is made to resemble Peter Parker in a lot of ways. So I think Tom Holland would be a good Terry McGinnis also.
Yeah,
I can see
agreed.
that. All right,
And then you
Sean.
bring
Agreed.
in
That's
the-
a good one, Adam. That's a really rock solid one, Adam. Good
Thank
job
you.
by you.
Especially the casting of Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you
it's
killed
just
that one.
it's just perfect. I mean, you look at the guy now, it's like, yeah, this just makes nothing but sense.
And I didn't even think of how ridiculous it would be to have Michael Keaton and Tom Holland in Batman Beyond until just now. So yeah, that would be kind of ridiculous.
that's a little much right there. People go, I've already seen this movie.
Oh god. So
Sean-
give us Andrew Garfield.
He'd be crying. I just want to play the best Batman I could play, guys. Gosh,
Oh,
keep me
man.
alone.
We're getting down to crunch time. We've only got 2 left, Sean. What do you have for number 2?
All right, so for number 2 for me, and it's all about the casting, you've got to basically just give him whatever amount of money he wants, but you make Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson Savage Dragon.
Yes. God,
I think
yes.
that works. I think that works.
It
Is
is-
that Eric Larson?
Yep.
Savage Dragon?
It is
Yeah,
Eric Larson.
That's
that works.
perfect.
Image. You know, this character is so unappreciated for what this character is. He's only been making comic books for the last 25 years, consistently every month, and just knocking them out. I remember I was around for the first 20 issues of Savage Dragon, and it gets repetitive after a while. But there's that really great story arc where there's the old lady who thinks that Savage Dragon is her long lost son, and you have all of this stuff as well underneath. You've got a very, very violent movie with a guy who is also very funny, and it has to be Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson who plays him.
Yeah, I'm all about
I like
this.
it.
It's a
Man.
terrific. I love everything about that idea.
So I'm going to have you guys help me with the dream casting for my number 2 because, I mentioned a while back for number 5 that The Invisibles was like peak weirdness for Grant Morrison when his weirdness did not get in the way of enjoying the story. Well, my number 2 that I would love to see a movie made about is a character where you just have to lean into the weirdness, and that's Flex Mentallo, the man of muscle mystery, who can alter reality by flexing his muscles. And I don't know, are you guys familiar with what the character looks like in the comics?
I am, because I have the trade, or I have the hardback.
The hardcover. Yeah, because he's based very much on Charles Atlas in the back of the old comic book ads. And he's kind of a hairy guy. He's not one of those bodybuilders who waxes. That's why I'm wondering. And when he starts to flex, sometimes he's kind of funny looking too. So I'm thinking like a guy who used to be in pretty good shape. You know how I'll say Schwarzenegger. He's an easy target because he's a public figure. But you know how Schwarzenegger used to look like Schwarzenegger? Then you saw him at the beach when he was governor and he didn't quite look like Schwarzenegger anymore.
cheeseburgers.
Like you need a guy that kind of looks like that, but they still have just enough muscle control that they can do the weird things like make their chest muscles jump up and down and stuff, even though they're not in real good shape. Like a significant part of this movie needs to be kind of an old man with his shirt off, making his muscles do weird stuff and having it affect reality.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
And Flex Mentallo is also one of those weird things where by the end of the movie, he has to be aware that he's in a movie and that you're watching it. He has to be talking to you directly and not like cutesy break the fourth wall Deadpool kind of, but he's got to be telling you, can you believe you actually spent money to watch me flex my pectoralis muscles and affect reality? That is the reality. And then you have to hire an army of people that can be like stand-ins for Flex Mentallo to actually start walking up and down the aisles in the theater and talking to people while the movie's going on as if he just stepped out of the screen. It's great. Maybe I went too far with that last bit.
Listen,
but I'd love to
the
see
fact
Flex
that you
Mentallo.
decided to put William Castle type flair into your movie-going experience, I applaud you for that, my friend.
But I would kind of like to see Bruce Campbell doing Flex Mentallo because he's kind of got that like out of shape but can still pretend like he doesn't realize how old
Right.
he is, you know.
Right.
Because I
he
really
is
liked
good at
Ash
that.
versus the Evil Dead. It was fun. So I could see him doing the flexing and stuff and puckering up. So yeah, Flex Mentallo. I doubt he's going to show up on the Doom Patrol TV show, but if he does, then I'd have to take him off my list.
All right, my number 2. There's been these movies, but frankly, I want to see a good one. Mine's Fantastic Four, and it's all about the cast and everything like that. I've got John Krasinski as Reed Richards, Emily Blunt as Sue Storm. Zac Efron's back as Johnny Storm. I'm pulling a Bruce here. And actually, I found this one out today. I put this one together. Dominic Purcell as Ben Grimm. Very good, I think. And Dr. Doom.
I like Dominic Purcell.
Carl
Yes.
Urban as Dr. Doom.
Carl Urban.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I think he could pull that off. It's a modern version of the FF. I don't want to go too much into it because obviously we all know the story and stuff. I have written quite a bit of it out, but we are pressed for a little bit of time. But I want this also written and directed by Brad Bird, who has given us the best Fantastic Four movies we've ever had in The Incredibles. And, of course, Ghost Protocol was pretty great as well. So my number
that's a great idea.
My number
And
2
it's
is FF with Brad Bird in the director's chair.
And make it a period piece.
I want it modern
Yes.
day. I think modern day because I want them in the again. I want everybody in the same thing. I enjoy the idea.
I don't
of
think
the other ones.
that they can at this point, man. I
you-
think,
I think
that they have to jump time here.
Would you
Yeah, I
like?
think you said it in 2012.
Yeah.
Well, I'll send you my treatment later, and you may change your mind. But that's
Oh,
my
boy.
number 9. Or that's my number
Now-
2.
Now it's what the gambling folks call the Jim Dandy, the number 1. Let's hear it.
The number 1
Oh
spot.
boy. The Jim Dandy. So number 1, this is the reason why I said to you guys, hey, let's make a list for this specifically. It is the book Grendel War Child. Have you guys ever read that book?
No.
It is post-apocalyptic. It is about. It starts right out of the gate where the royal baby is stolen, and he's stolen by someone in a Grendel mask. And once you learn more, once you start going on, when like I don't want to ruin it for anybody because you totally need to read it. It's once you learn why the baby is stolen, things start getting really complicated after that, and it's great. And it has everything that you could possibly want in a post-apocalyptic movie. You got zombies and mutants and cannibals and road warriors and everything else, and like kung fu and guns, and it's just the best. I have not. Here's a fair warning. I have not read it since my early 20s, so maybe it's not so great now. But at the time when I read it, it was right up there with Preacher for me as one of my favorite stories of all time. And much like you talking about Sergeant Rock, reading that in the very the very uncomfortable carpet of your mom's workplace. For me, I first read Grendel War Child. I had taken it from my buddy, and I read it all the way down to Charlotte, from Connecticut to Charlotte.
Nice.
My first trip down. So it was amazing. Like I remember it being incredible. It's got a great ending to it. It is the characters are amazing. It's everything that I wanted the story to be, and it is so cinematic when you read it that it's hard to believe that it was no one ever attempted to make it into a movie.
I always remember seeing those comics at the store. Never really bought one, but I always thought the covers looked pretty cool, pretty metal.
Yeah.
To me, the only ones that were ever, because I've tried to read Grendel because I loved Grendel Warchild so much, so I would try to pick up other ones, and it's just not the same. It's not. Grendel Warchild. That storyline is just terrific. It was one of my favorite stories.
Well, is it my turn?
Bruce, you're number
Yes, sir.
one.
So it all the way back in 1995, the Wachowski siblings wrote a screenplay for a movie that they wanted to have Keanu Reeves star in, and he was attached to the project. And it had to kind of go through Warner Brothers because they own the property. And I don't exactly know when it all started to fall apart, but at some point people realized that Keanu Reeves is like the worst person you could probably ever have play Plastic Man, right? I mean, you think of like your dream casting for Plastic Man, you got to get way down on the list before you start considering Keanu, right?
I think so.
Yes.
What's the opposite of Plastic? Unanimated Man? He could be unanimated.
Woodman.
But a lifelong dream of mine has been to see Plastic Man made into a movie. And there have been some actors, unlike Keanu, that I think would have been perfect for it, but they have since either aged out or maybe they've fallen out of favor with me. But the movie The Mask, Jim Carrey could have pretty much given that same performance to Plastic Man, and it would have been a great movie.
Yeah.
I think Jim Carrey, I think he even called himself Rubber Face early on in his career. I mean, he would have been a wonderful person to play Plastic Man. Another person who really had the oversized jaw for it, and a person who I could see sporting those golden Elvis sunglasses, as I call them, would have been Bruce Campbell, who I just mentioned a few minutes ago as Flex Mentallo, but he's a little too old for that role now. But peak, Briscoe County Jr. era, Bruce Campbell would have been a beautiful Plastic Man. And Plastic Man is a character that really needs to lean into the comedy while being a reluctant hero. I mean, the backstory is that he's a villain who was shot in the chest and some chemicals leaked into his chest wound and turned him into this Plastic Man. And he kind of afterwards did the math and realized that he could probably come out ahead financially just slightly if he chose to be a hero instead of a villain. Like, honestly, that is his secret origin. Is he like did the math and decided it'd be slightly more profitable to be a hero. and this could be easily, man, if Warner Brothers jumped on this could be DC's Deadpool. Every single joke that Deadpool has done, they could recycle with Plastic Man. You could make this rated R if you wanted to. He can be shot 1,000,000 times. He is immortal. In fact, I would dare say that Plastic Man is more immortal than Deadpool or Wolverine even. And you could do all the same jokes you've ever done with Deadpool in the Deadpool movies. Plus you can add in some visual gags with his stretchiness. I mean, you could really have some super funny visual gags, or, you do it for less than 100 million and you have him making lots of comments about, isn't it strange how rarely I change shape despite the fact that I can do it at will without any effort? You could do all those Deadpool kind of low budget jokes. And, you could even do the joke like, I'm going to turn into a chair, and you don't see the transformation. There's just a chair with him talking, and then the camera pans up and he goes, nah, I didn't really turn into a chair, but see how easy that would be? And then he goes on about it. I mean, you could do all that. He has literally been driven as mentally insane as a person can be by this metamorphosis that's taken over his body. So he has all the same shtick that Deadpool has, except he's been around since 1940 something. When did Jack Cole first come out with him? 1956 was when DC got him. 1941 is when Jack Cole first started publishing Plastic Man. So once again, man, he could be doing everything. People would say, oh, you're kind of ripping off Deadpool, but Plastic Man was doing it first. And also, come on, Warner Brothers, like you can go wrong ripping off something successful at this point. But more than any comic book that I can think of today at this minute, at this moment, I would love to see Eel O'Brien, Jack Cole's Plastic Man, on the big screen.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Agreed. So where did your love for this character come in, Bruce?
Oh, from the animated show way back in 78, 79, 80. I'm not exactly sure what year those animated shows were, but it was purely like Looney Tunes, man. It was played just like a Bugs Bunny cartoon or something, only with Plastic Man. I liked him way better than Reed Richards because of that sense of humor instead of the super seriousness.
Right. And am I wrong? There was like some sort of like, because it wasn't just the Plastic Man show. It was like Plastic Man and something weird. It's like Plastic Man and Marmaduke or something like that.
There might have been something like that was doubled up. I don't have that much memory. I do know there was the Plastic Man comedy / adventure show. Like they stressed comedy as well as adventure from the get-go. It had Woozy Winks in it, which was cool. Actually, I don't think they had Woozy. They had the guy in the Hawaiian shirt, which was sort of like Woozy, but the way Filmation would, instead of paying somebody for all the characters, they would just make up their own shallow impersonations. And it had Baby Plaz in season 2 or season 3, and Baby Plaz even showed up in the comics as this awesome character. But yeah, it was 1979 to 81, and it was awesome, man. I loved it.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. I remember watching it a lot. Adam.
Yes.
Your turn, buddy.
My number one is the one that I feel is the most apt to actually being made. This one could be right around the corner if only Hollywood would get their stuff together. And this actor has just recently said that he would be interested in doing this. So my number one is The Batman, starring John Hamm as Bruce Wayne and Batman. No backstory. Batman is Batman, and he's been Batman for a bit. So after beating the crap out of Bronze Tiger, Batman is met by Commissioner Gordon, played by gray-haired Tom Selleck, who gives him a package addressed to Batman which contains a riddle. Batman is forced to deal with the mad plans of the Riddler, played by Neil Patrick Harris, or Gotham may fall to its knees. This is out and out a detective movie unlike any Batman we've ever seen before. He uses his intellect along with his gadgets to solve crimes and occasionally beats a few heads in. But make no mistake, this is more Sam Spade than Bruce Lee. This is going to be written by Brian Hillenbrand, who did L.A. Confidential's Conspiracy Theory, Payback, and Man on Fire. Directed by Rian Johnson, he of Brick and Star Wars: The Last Jedi, or the Last Jedi fame.
Yeah.
Is this movie in development?
No, but it should be.
Because I swear, like somebody told me last night that John Hamm was in to play Batman.
He is now just recently, because he's been asked, and he's like, no, he's like, I've had these meetings with like people over at Warner Brothers. No one has ever asked me to do this, but he's like, I grew up reading comic books. This is something that I'm very, very much into. And if someone asked me to play Batman, I am 100% down with playing Batman. And at that point, I'm just like, let's ride that train.
Well,
watch them screw it up somehow.
Yes, they will.
Not cast them.
I do like it that the topic is superheroes who deserve their own movies. And Adam's number one is literally in 63% of all superhero movies.
No. My point is this: it's not in superhero movies. An actual Batman, a detective Batman story. We have not truly gotten that. We've gotten hints of it.
Aren't you proud?
Number two is also the Fantastic Four.
We've gotten hints of those things, but we've never gotten those movies.
See, Adam, take everything you just read, take out Batman, and put in Detective Chimp, and you got a good movie. That's John Hamm as Detective Chimp.
Elongated Man, the DC's second best detective.
Well, I wanted Elongated Man, but now that he's shown up in The Flash, Ralph Dibny, I thought he didn't count anymore. I didn't realize we could use them even if they already had stuff done.
Listen, you got to learn to break rules,
man,
baby.
I stopped watching that show. So Elongated Man is on Flash now?
He's the best part. It's the only redeeming quality of The Flash last season, but I cannot get enough Ralph Dibny.
How much coffee does he drink? Because everybody's always drinking coffee.
We paid for this CC jitters set by George. We're gonna use it.
I like it because they've really made him more Plastic Man than Elongated Man, to be honest. Like they go to a strip club and he has his picture like hanging up on the wall in the strip club as a potential troublemaker when they go in. I mean, it's hilarious.
Well, we've gotten Bruce's comic book connection, but what would this show be without a connection to one Sylvester Stallone?
Thank you, Adam. I happen to have a prepared statement.
Oh.
Back in episode 3 of HMP, we reviewed the 1978 movie Superman, the movie. And the idea of the Stallone connection was born because we learned that Sylvester Stallone really, really wanted to be Superman. And a comedy bit was born out of nothing. There's several reasons why Stallone didn't get the part, but one of them was that Marlon Brando torpedoed the idea, thinking that Stallone wasn't a very good actor. And Stallone, to this very day, is still angry with Brando. Stallone is too old to play Superman now, but it'd be really great if they cast him anyway. With Henry Cavill leaving the role of Superman, DC might want to zig to Marvel's zag and recast all of their superheroes with age-inappropriate casts. You got Stallone as Superman, Angela Lansbury as Wonder Woman, Robert Duvall as Batman. None of these might make good movies, but you wouldn't be able to drag me away from the theater. The kid who plays young Sheldon as Aquaman, James Earl Jones as the Flash, a baby as Green Lantern. You're welcome, and you're welcome, DC. Now, my dreams of seeing a septuagenarian Justice League may fall to pieces, however, because in May of this year, rumors started flying around that Stallone is in talks to play the role of Duke McQueen and the Mark Miller movie adaptation of his series Starlight. Fox owns the rights, so there's no telling what's going to happen. But Stallone playing a retired superhero who gets called back into action? That sounds awesome. Pretty awesome. And I can see Stallone knocking that project out of the park as long as he doesn't try to tinker with it. Because some of you may remember that after the apocalypse that was Judge Dredd, Stallone said later in interviews the reason why it didn't work was because it wasn't funny enough. Now, I haven't read Miller's Starlight, so if this project ever sees the light of day, it'll be a new experience for me, which will be nice. I'm not going to read it now because I'll turn into a giant sucky baby about how the movie isn't like the book and how the Duke McQueen character isn't anything like his characterization in the movie, and I don't want to be that guy. I just want to enjoy something for what it is for a change without the baggage of knowing what it could have been. Sort of like Game of Thrones, because I'm really glad I watched the show before I read the books. And so is everyone else, I promise you. And that's your Stallone connection this week, HMPers. The movie that might be Mark Miller's Starlight. Now, dude from Wanted and dude from Kick-Ass, let's wrap up this pig and throw it in the oven.
Roasted pig. So that's it, everybody. We don't have really a Robin rating for any of this. I say we all did it. Tim Drake.
I give it a C.
We were here. We showed up. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this little extra special kind of episode for you. And maybe we'll have things like this or somewhat similar in the future when we're tired of watching the same old crap over and over and over again. But speaking of the same old crap, we won't be watching the same old crap anymore because next week, the people that support us over at patreon.com/HMP are going to be able to vote on the movies that we watch. And you do that by going over to patreon.com/HMP, supporting us at any level. And we'll be watching what you guys vote on. So tune in next week for that. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet, sir?
So, to the best of my knowledge, The Vigilant should be available everywhere in the world now. Like it's had its North American. It's had its North American release. It's had its European release. It's had its British release. So go to your comic shop, ask for The Vigilant. If you want to check out my awesome 6-page story called Yao, the Demon Touched Home, my traditional publishing debut there, thanks to the folks at 2000 AD. But yeah, go hit up your local comic book guy, your comic book shop, and say, order The Vigilant from 2000 AD. I really want to read this. And then really try and read that. It's awesome, man. And you can always get it online from the Treasure of British Comics. You can get like the digital copy at a little bit of a discount. If you can't find yourself a physical copy, that's cool too.
Beautiful. Mr. Keenan.
You can find me at Hero Movie Sean, or there is this show that we do if you are a Patreon subscriber called The Dinger Zone, and you should listen to that because it's kind of awesome.
And my other podcast, The Film Find, is we're starting a new leaf. Some things are happening over there. There are going to be some changes going on, and I hope you will join me for them. Hopefully there'll be good changes, and people will enjoy them, and we'll see. So check out The Film Find. I'm probably going to be dropping an episode Tuesday or Wednesday, so please check that out because we've been gone for a while, but it's time to come back and maybe come back a little bit different. So check that out, everybody. Until next week when we talk about whatever they choose for us at patreon.com/HMP. For Sean Keenan, Bruce Leslie, my name is Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.